I'd like to talk to you all about what I've been inspired to do for the last few years. But first, I'd like to make a guess about you. I bet that everyone sitting here today has at some point in your life had a great idea for a product, an art project, or an invention. And you couldn't go through with it because you didn't know how to build it or you didn't have the right tools. Now, I'm not surprised that you had a good idea, and not just because we're part of the TEDx demographic. This is what people do. People think. People wonder. Our brains are wired to get bored. We've been creating art and building tools since we've been living in caves. We've been improving the quality of our life by making things for ages. Life is a struggle between discomfort and comfort, and tools and technology and art are that which empower us to wage that struggle, and maybe someday to win. Hard to think about that, but let's strive for it. So I'm not surprised you had a good idea, nor am I surprised that you couldn't necessarily follow through with it. Making things that function, making things that look good is difficult. Full stop. You need the idea, you need a design, you need tools and the knowledge to use them well. So, not surprised you had the good idea, not surprised you couldn't go through with it. What would it mean if there were a better way to make things, a new way, an easier way, a way that lowered the threshold to take an idea out of your head and put it in your hand? I think this might mean for makers what desktop publishing meant for authors. Desktop publishing empowered anyone who wanted to with the tools to write. Desktop making will empower anyone who wants to with the tools to create things they like. So we'll be flooded with great new products, great new art, great new inventions, and we'll all be better for it. So today I'm going to talk about three things. One, I'm going to talk about a new way to make things that does in fact narrow this chasm from concept to execution. Two, I'm going to talk about a community of people here in Columbus that's been doing this for the last 3 years, helping people make things. A whole lot of fun. Three, I'm going to talk about why we need to take this methodology and why we need to put it in high schools, and why we need to do it now, not next year, why we need to do it now. But before I talk about this new way to make things, I'm going to talk a little bit about the old way and some history. The ancient Greeks thought the largest size a democracy could be was about 30,000 people. That was the maximum that could stand around a hilltop or sit in an amphitheater and hear a single person speaking. Back then, if you had a good idea, you had a conversation. Thankfully, we still enjoy the same today. But what if you had a good idea and nobody heard you? Or if everyone who heard you died? That good idea would be lost. This is an example of a good idea that was lost. It was found again about a century ago in a shipwreck off a Mediterranean island. And only until someone had the good idea to put it under an X-ray did we learn that it was something more than a lump of corroded bronze. Turns out it's got gears, and a lot of them, and precise, fabricated with a precision that wouldn't be seen again for another 1,500 years, until Swiss clockmakers started perfecting their trade in the 1600s. It's called the Antikythera mechanism, and it's about 2,000 years old, and it's a machine. It would compute the position of the sun, the moon, and certain planets. And it looked great doing it too. These are replica. Now think for a second how much better off the quality of life of everyone in this room would be if we had a millennium and a half jump start on building precision gears, on making machines, on mechanical computing. Breathtaking. It's too bad it was lost. Thankfully, there have been evolutions in communication that pretty much ensure we'll never lose another good idea. The printing press allowed a person to write an idea down and spread it across the planet. Unfortunately, as the previous speaker also mentioned, it would spread at the speed of donkey or of sailing ship. It wasn't until an artist named Morse, you know his code, until an artist perfected the first technology for the telegraph to function. Now we can have two people separated at great distance, communicating instantly, having a conversation, sharing ideas. Jump to the radio and TV. Now you have one person who can communicate to everyone instantly, but it's a one-way communication. Now we have the internet. This is different. This isn't just another dot on the graph of human communication. Now everyone can talk to everyone, and a good idea can spread across the planet at the speed of light. And with 95% of all the scientists and engineers who have ever lived on planet Earth alive right now, we're making information faster than we can read, learn, or apply it. Thankfully for makers, there are websites that do great jobs of archiving this information. Websites like Instructables and MakeZine collect thousands and thousands of user-uploaded DIY recipes of how to make nearly anything. How to make your own bike, how to make your own computer, how to make tools that themselves make tools. So now, and much of this is widely available and even for free. So increasingly, information is not the bottleneck in how to bring an idea to fruition. Information's available, but you still need a design. Information itself isn't enough. So how do you make that design? Again, thankfully, the web provides free resources promoted by the open source community, increasingly by private industry, that allow you to download software that you can completely download for free, learn how to use for free, and make many, many things. Google, for example, has a product called SketchUp. You can download it for free, learn to use it. You can create electric circuits. You can create architectural layouts. You can create a component or an assemblage of components, a machine. But you need more than a design to build something. You need to take that, and it used to be you'd go to the wood shop or a metal shop or a machine shop, and you'd make it, or you'd ask someone to make it for you. These are resources we used to have in high schools. We really don't anymore. We really don't teach people how to make things anymore. Thankfully, there is, in fact, a new way to make things. A way that will take these files that we've created, learned how to use completely for free, take the shape that we've defined, and make that automatically, hands-free, printed out of plastic, printed out of ceramic, printed out of metal, cut it out of wood, cut it out of metal, again, automatically. And these machines came from an interesting inspiration. Let's say you want to spend a couple of months on the bottom of the ocean in a nuclear submarine, or up on a space station orbiting the planet. What do you do if something breaks? You can't have something shipped to you. You can't have a storeroom of everything that might break. You can't even have a machine shop that can recreate the broken component. So there are technologies called selective laser sintering or photolithographic printing that allow you to do the things I've just described. Print an object automatically in 3D, or computer-controlled machine it. And like computers, these technologies have been getting smaller, getting more affordable-ish, and they're increasingly more capable and more approachable. You don't need to be a technologist to use these things. If you can sketch a shape with a pencil on paper, we can scan it at our shop, we can convert it to a file, we can cut it with a machine, we can cut it out of wood with a laser, we can cut it out of metal with a machine, we can even print it out of plastic in 3D. So what this means is that artists and illustrators, you are all now fabricators. We've just added to the number of potential inventors on the planet. Now, what do you do if you take all these resources, the availability of information on the web, the availability of open source software, and these cheapish desktop machining resources, put them under one roof, and then populate that building with artists, engineers, creatives, technologists, students and teachers, web developers, business people, entrepreneurs, small businesses? Well, you've lowered the threshold to making things, especially if you teach them, make anything you want. And whenever the public comes in, teach them how to use these tools as well, and then offer them access for a monthly fee and an hourly rate. If you do that last part, you've created the Columbus Idea Foundry. We've been doing this for 3 years, helping people make things, and it's been a whole lot of fun. I wish I could go into all of the products that we've been involved in over the last few years, but I'll just hit a few highlights. I'll start with Reed Harpham. Reed heard that farmers in Mali had a problem with their crop yield. During the processing stage, they were losing more than half of it, only getting about 42% of what they actually grew. So he and his colleagues at One Lab Initiative had the idea to design and build a prototype machine that could improve their processing. It wound up doubling their yield. They now get over 90%, almost 100%. It's been trialed in Mali, and actually is going to be a permanent fixture over there. Reed was a TEDxColumbus 2009 speaker, and also one of the first members at our shop. My friends Joe and Amy Sharp make little wooden toys, and people all around the world love them. They're selling in South Korea, Japan, Australia, New Zealand. We've taught them how to use desktop manufacturing resources and then give them access at our shop to keep competitive with cheaper labor markets elsewhere. So now they're using resources that we make available for fairly cheap, and they're a small mom and pop business exporting to Asia, exporting to Europe, exporting to Australia. Love it. Now, my friend Todd Perkins wants to design and build his own car. We're making a little video documenting the evolution of the car. Being Todd, he wanted to do an old classic look, so he picked the Ford Model T for inspiration. But he wants it to really scream. He wants to perform like a next-generation supercar. So he put an electric motor in it and a whole lot of technology. The Center for Automotive Research here at OSU makes the Buckeye Bullet. It's the fastest electric car on the planet. They caught wind of Todd's design, and they offered the batteries to last year's Buckeye, Buckeye Bullet, to go in this car. The Ohio Department of Education caught wind of this project, and they wanted to take this design and wrap it into kit cars that high school vo-tech students can build. So now we'll have high school students building next-generation supercars. It turns out you need more than just a textbook and an equation to inspire people to become engineers, to become innovators, especially in the Facebook and Twitter age. You need something sexy. You need something creative. You need something artistic and hands-on. This is how you inspire people. We can't do it the old way. We need to do something new. My friend Matt Bowman has the idea to repurpose cargo containers, shipping containers, for architectural use. Prefab, modular, mobile, cost-effective. It's not a new idea. People have been doing this for a while. But we think we have some tricks and techniques that can do this very efficiently, very rapidly, very cheaply at our shop. This is going to be a fun project. I'm going to return to it at the end of the talk. So, how do you provide these resources to a high school or to a middle school? You can do what I've done, which is to take the last 3 years of my life, keep your day job, learn to not sleep, learn to not see the dentist, eat greens, learn to feel what it's like to have your blood displaced by a rusty sludge of caffeine and adrenaline and microwave goods. I don't recommend it. There is an easier way, though. And Neil Gershenfeld at MIT coined the term Fab Lab. It's a digital fabrication laboratory. It's a facility that has a laser cutter, a 3D printer, a CNC machine. And he had the great idea to put it in the back of a trailer and tow it behind a pickup truck to high schools. This way, you can inspire the next generation of innovators, of artists, of engineers, of manufacturers with these digital manufacturing resources. It's a great way to do that, but it's not necessarily the best way to provide long-term or short-term access for these schools to have this resource. As you can see, it's a little bit cramped, and it wasn't necessarily designed to do this either. This is really just an inspiration. So what's a better way to do this? Well, when Matt and I were considering ways to market these cargo containers, we were thinking residential, we were thinking industrial, we were thinking office space. We weren't thinking educational, but now we are. We're wondering if we can use the experience we've garnered over the last 3 years of running an efficient workflow machine shop, next generation machine shop, take all those components, distill them into a small enough shape that could be enclosed inside of 2 cargo containers, then put that on a truck, ship it to a school, drop it off in the parking lot. It would take about 4 parking spaces, about 2 school buses, and wrap it in a financial program whereby the school doesn't need to buy this equipment, they just lease it. That way they can have it for as long as they need, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. It can coincide with their design curriculum. And when they're done with it, we pick it up, move it to a neighboring school. A dozen of these or so could service, or one of these could service about a dozen different schools. Now, I'm not sure this is the best way to do this. We're running the numbers now. But it's one way, and I'd like to try to throw this dart. And one of the reasons we need to do this is because, well, 2 reasons. There used to be a wall between designers and fabricators. Engineers would draft a blueprint, throw it over the wall, and then machinists would get that blueprint and say, why did they make it this way? If I had designed it, I would have designed it differently, better, more intelligently, cost-effectively. People who know how to use tools design better. That's one reason. Second, the person best suited to redesigning a product is the person who made it in the first place. Especially when it comes to innovation in manufacturing, the best ideas don't come from someone with their heels up on their desk, their hands behind their head, daydreaming about the next thing. It comes from people doing. comes from people making things, learning the devils in the details, finding out how to design around them, and then creating that next innovation. Thomas Friedman has a great point about this in his book, That Used to Be Us, talking about why we get hit twice when manufacturing jobs go overseas. First, we've lost the jobs. Second, we've lost the inspiration for the innovation for those next inventions, those next designs. So this is why it's especially critical to empower our next generation of artists, engineers, designers, small businesses, manufacturers, at a young age with these new digital resources that are going to become more common. They're going to get cheaper, they're going to get more prevalent. If they don't have practice, if they don't have access to them, and if they don't have a shop floor to practice on, we're not going to be able to maintain this kind of quality of life that we've been accustomed to. So I'm hoping, like I said, if it's not this way, it's going to be something similar. It's going to be a process that involves artists, technologists, educators, and enterprise. So we're going to, like I said, try to throw this dart, and if we don't get it right the first time, we'll be well suited to redesign it and try it the second time. So hopefully we'll find a way to get these resources into middle schools, into high schools, empower our next generation designers, artists, and engineers, flood the world with great new art, great new products, great new inventions, and we'll all be better for it. Thank you so much.